This whole point of living fossils, you do need to take it in all of its context, because if you look at just purely the names, then, well, it makes the appearance that these creatures have evolved. It makes the appearance that these fish have changed. So if you consider what is now known as cockroalites, which is one of those fish from the Green River Formation in Wyoming, they are identical in every way morphologically to the freshwater sunfish, right, that live in the United States and so on and so forth. And yet they've recently just undergone a name change to give the appearance that they are a completely different type of fish, a completely separate type of fish. You see this as well with things even like the ginkgos, right? Even though they're still called ginkgos, the Jurassic ones were known as Ginkgo huttonii, named after James Hutton, right? And the modern ones are Ginkgo biloba, even though we've been able to actually isolate the gene that has caused the minor morphological difference between the two things. And so really they are the same thing. They are the same kind. And that's the really important thing to remember, is that God didn't create things according to their species. Species is something that mankind has implemented onto the classification system in order to help it rather make sense to us. It was done by Carl Linnaeus, and it was actually based off of a biblical principle, the idea that God actually did create things according to their kinds. So in the Old Latin Bible, the word kind was genus. So Carl von Linné, who invented our sort of modern classification system, particularly the binomial system, the two naming system, he said, God has created things according to their genus, according to their kind. So I'm going to create that. But it's clear that there's lots of diversity within a kind. So we can say that there is a special type of that kind, which is where we get our concept of species from. So beware of this idea of species. Remember to go back to the biblical concept of kind, which is built into our classification system. And also remember, what was the name of Charles Darwin's most famous book? On the Origin of Species. Now, if he'd have made On the Origin of Kinds, I'd have been a lot more impressed, but he didn't. So just bear in mind that when you're looking at evidence of change within a kind, it doesn't necessarily equate to evolution, which is different kinds evolving from other kinds. So you need to keep that all in mind and bear that all in mind as we go on forward.
The megalodon's another classic example, Joe.
Exactly. Yes.
That they refer to as an extinct great white shark.
Well,
not just a big
and they've
white
changed that differently as well. See, this is some politics which is going on at the moment, and I need to write it up right. So the megalodon used to be referred to as Carcharodon megalodon. Okay, now if you know your Latin names, you'll know that Carcharodon is the same genus as the great white shark. Right, so if you go to the Houston Museum of Natural Science, which I did last year, they still show you the huge, great big megalodon, Carcharodon megalodon, and they show it next to a tiny little great white shark in comparison, and they say, look how much sharks have evolved. They used to be big, now they're little. Right, no, I'm afraid you're using the wrong term there. A shark has devolved for sure. Now, sharks are interesting because they're cartilaginous, right? They haven't got any hard, bony structure to them. Their hardest parts are their teeth. And it's their teeth that can actually show you, relationships between shark species. And so if you compare a great white shark tooth next to a megalodon shark tooth, they're pretty much identical, except for, of course, the size. One is a lot bigger, one is a lot smaller. But you'll find that there's been a group of scientists recently pushing for megalodon to be classified as a different type of creature, a different type of shark. And you'll find the reason to this is that they want to push it towards a genus known as Atotus. Now, I know a Atotus shark. I've dug them up from places, they're found all over the world, but particularly found in places like Morocco, and we have brilliant specimens of them. But they're much, much smaller than the megalodon, and they're supposed to be some 70 million years older than the megalodon. You see, they came to realize that it doesn't make sense evolutionary that sharks used to be big, now they're small. So they said, well, we need to make this as a different connection. We need to find a small shark that's supposed to be millions of years old and claim that the shark evolved from a small toothed shark into a big toothed shark, because that's what evolution shows. Even though Atotus shark teeth and megalodon shark teeth look nothing alike, they're now being argued as being the descendants of this ancient shark type. Well, I'm sorry, but I know that John agrees with me and will continue to make the claim at Creation Research that the megalodon is just a very large great white shark. Carcharodon, megalodon, I think you got the right classification in the first place. They used to be big, now they're little. They haven't evolved, they've devolved, they've gone downhill, but they have reproduced after their kind, just like God told them to do in Genesis chapter 1. So yeah, keep looking at that, because we'll need to probably write that up at some point.